Balake, where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Aaron.
Aaron is right here, everyone. Thank you for joining me for yet another last-minute unscheduled live Q&A, because that's just how I roll. No, I was planning on doing this earlier today, meaning normally this would be done in the evening. I was intending on doing this earlier in the day today. I just didn't know exactly when. And mainly for the British and the European crowd. Let's see if we get some people in the chat. More people from the European countries than usual. You know, I mean, normally I'm starting at like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. There's always some people in the chat from over there in Europe land, but not that many. So I figured, you know what? Let's just do it earlier in the day. I don't know what's going on later this evening anyway. So there we go. And guys, if you think I'm normally red, I'm just going to keep getting redder for like the next week. I'm intentionally doing a lot of outside work, trying to get some sun. So anyway, I feel really burnt right now, but I don't look that burnt, at least not the camera view that I'm looking at here. So I do see a lot of UK people from the chat here. Let's see what we got. Here we go. Lydia von Stretchclaw. This is perfect UK time. Awesome. Nicola Burton. Hey, all from UK. Great to be here for Aaron Live. Fantastic. Oh, we got Australia. Rick Lund, good morning, everyone. It is 6:24 a.m. down under. Wow, that is a very strange time difference. Wow, I thought it was 12 hours. I was clearly wrong on that. Let's see, another one. Free Shelley Miscavige. Hey, Aaron, perfect timing. Hi from Bristol, England. Hello. You know, I mentioned in the chat yesterday, one of my daughters is named Brisbane, and she's named after Brisbane, Australia. And one of my other daughters is named Brighton, named after Brighton, England. Now, I know Bristol is not Brighton, but it's close enough. It reminded me of it enough to mention it. So there you go, showing Australia some love and showing England some love. Okay, let's see here. Okay, here's a reference to Skrillex, because I did put Skrillex in the name and the thumbnail of today's live stream. Deanna B, apparently Skrillex lives right near me in Boulder, Colorado. Really? There's a Scientology building in downtown Denver. Yes, there is an org in Denver. It's been there forever. It's the only org that I can recall in all of Colorado. Don't worry, Denver's safe. You guys are safe from Xenu and his homies. I didn't know Skrillex lived in Boulder, Colorado, though. I wonder if he actually lives there or if he just has a place there. So I do get asked about Skrillex a lot in the chat, and I wanted to put him in the title specifically because a recently departed former Sea Org member sent me a message about Skrillex last night. After, by the way, his real name is like Sonny. What's his real name? Sonny Moore, I think, is his real name. For those of you who don't actually know who he is, let me just share a screen here. Let's see. So this is Skrillex, this funny looking little dude. He's huge in EDM, electronic dance music, electronica dance music. I don't know, guys. I grew up in a cult. This wasn't my scene. EDM, rave music, house music. Are those things the same, guys? I don't know. How would I know? But this is Skrillex, and he's arguably one of the biggest stars in that musical genre. And he is born and raised a Scientologist. It's a very weird industry for a Scientologist to be successful in, because it is, shall we say, an industry rife with substance use. How's that? That's pretty good. And these photos, I think you're going to find these photos interesting because it somewhat relates to what I'm about to explain. I'm not going to show the text on screen, but I'm just going to read this text. Okay. Here's what this former Sea Org member says. I keep hearing questions about Skrillex being a Scientologist. He definitely is. He had the Indiana-based field auditor, Chris something or other. Now it's Chris Farmer. I'm familiar with this field auditor. So in Scientology, a professional auditor can either be a staff member at an org, or they can be a Sea Org member. But a public Scientologist who's a professional auditor can audit people in the field. The field means the area around the org. The field is everything that's not inside of an org. And assuming the business is there, you can actually make really good money auditing public Scientologists outside of Scientology orgs. You can charge more money than a Scientology org. You're just not allowed to charge less money. You're not allowed to compete with the orgs. And the idea here is if you're charging more, then you're not competing. And Chris Farmer is a woman, is the public Scientology field auditor who's very well known in the Scientology world. And she's based out of Indiana. So when I was on staff in the Philadelphia org, we would get a lot of people coming into the org who had been audited by Chris. Okay, so he had the Indiana-based field auditor, Chris Farmer, traveling with him, auditing him. Skrillex's dad, or Sonny's dad, is super active on OT7, and Skrillex pays those bills. So Skrillex is funding his parents doing their Scientology bridge. But Skrillex, check this out. Skrillex was booked to go to Flag back in 2014, and various ethics officers who looked at his photograph online determined that he was too out of valence, and Skrillex was told not to come to Flag. He was angry about this, and so he wasn't trying to go back to Flag, but he is 100% a Scientologist. Okay, so let's talk about this term real quick, out of valence. This is an interesting thing. I was thinking about this today. In Scientology, the word valence means a personality, like a beingness, but a personality, like how you portray yourself. So like, you know, well, I mean, if you pull up like, let's see, if you pull up a photo here of Skrillex, you could, oh, come on, add it back to the screen. Let's see, who comes to mind? Okay, so if someone, forget the photo, this is not gonna help me. So if someone's, someone who's goth, that would be a valence, the goth valence. If someone dresses like a rocker, and they're not a rocker, they're dressed in a rock valence, a personality. It's how you portray yourself, how you dress, how you look, how you act. Now, Scientology has this term out of valence, which is essentially you're stuck in some other beingness or personality. Now you might go, well, then what's the right beingness? What's the right personality? And I have to tell you, in all my time in Scientology, everything I've read or listened to from L. Ron Hubbard, he doesn't ever explain what is the correct or normal personality. But you'll notice that all Scientologists, to some extent or another, all kind of sort of look, behave, and act the same. And I'm not necessarily talking about the fact that they're all white, which they are, like about 98% of Scientologists are all white, but that's not even what I mean. I'm talking about how they dress, how they communicate, how they behave, how they present, how they act. And there is this, I had totally forgotten about this concept of being in valence or being out of valence. But I'll tell you, like I'd forgotten that it was an important part of the Scientology experience and important part of the Scientology culture. However, a few days ago, Mike Rinder showed some photos on his blog of some of the promotional material that Scientology has been sending around, advertising like people who just recently joined staff at the Chicago org, because they're currently trying to do a big recruitment drive for the Chicago org because they're trying to get ready to open their new building, but they don't have enough staff members to open the new building. And they happened to show a staff member who had facial piercings. There was 2 piercings on the nose. One of them was, you know, the ring right in the center of the nose. And my first thought was, if David Miscavige laid eyes on this person for 1 second, they would be kicked off of staff for being out of valence. And it's funny that this terminology exists and that, you know, people in the Scientology bubble know what it means, even though there really isn't an explanation of what it means to be in valence. Why is it that someone with facial piercings or who would be dressed either as like, I keep using the examples of goth or rock or of goth or a rocker. I don't know why. Probably because if I put myself in the shoes of a Scientologist and I go, okay, what's an example of somebody that I would look at and go out of valence? It would be someone who's just dressed very abnormally, or presents abnormally, or has a very unusual hairstyle, or does outrageous flamboyant makeup, or dresses outrageously in a way that kind of screams, look at me, I'm unique, you know, I'm special, I'm weird, or whatever. That's how Scientologists would define out of valence. And with that in mind, just as I was getting ready for this stream, as I was looking for a photo to use in the thumbnail, I was pulling up photos of Skrillex here. Okay, I'll go back to sharing it again because now it's going to become relevant. And I was like, okay, Sonny over here, this version of Sonny, that is characteristic. That is textbook. Oh, you guys can't even see that because I opened up a new thing. This one over here with the striped shirt and the half-shaved head and the gauges in his ears and the big glasses. In Scientology world, that's textbook out of valence. But let's look at this new version of Skrillex. Holy cow, you guys. Let me see. Can I make this big? Will it work? How do I just make it big? Come on, man. Come on, man. How do I do it? Visit. It keeps wanting to pop up a new window. Okay, anyway, you guys can see it. Man, this is frustrating as hell. Okay, even this photo. Okay, this, now from a Scientology perspective, a guy that looks like that would be considered much more in valence. Even this version of Sonny would be considered more in valence. The half-shaved head would not be looked kindly upon. But check this out. This is Skrillex looking much more in valence from a Scientology perspective. It really just means normal. You know what I mean? Okay, so, all right, that was some fun Skrillex stuff. We'll get rid of that. Okay, and that all came from this comment. So there we go. All right, let me, oh, and I put Grant Cardone in the title and Grant Cardone in the thumbnail because Apostate Alex and I are going to be doing a live stream later this afternoon. Not even that much later, probably just shortly after I finish this live Q&A. We're going to be doing a live stream about Grant Cardone and the massive amount of trouble that he's in right now with the racist stuff that he's said about the black community and how he markets to the black community. Well, Apostate Alex is a professional in the marketing field, and he had some thoughts about what Grant Cardone had to say regarding how he markets to the black under 40 audience. So that'll be really interesting. Tune in for that later. Oh, hello in Germany. Hello, Noisy Hill in Germany. That's exactly why I wanted to do this stream a little bit earlier than usual. Another one from Germany. The Paul, by the way, I think I might be visiting Germany soon. I might be going to Berlin, and I might be going to Munich. And if I do, I'll let everybody know. Maybe we can get some brewskis. I only know some German, but one of the things I know is Ich will ein Bier, which is I want a beer. And Wo sind die Haltestelle bitte? Which I think is where's the bus stop, please? And Ist ein wunderschöner Tag heute, which is it's a wonderful day today, which is the most aggressive sounding way of saying it's a wonderful day today that you could ever imagine. And actually, my friend Pauline Schultz from Dusseldorf taught me some of those phrases about 25 years ago, along with Daniel Presta from Munich, Germany. And so there you go. Beachcomber, I'm in Europe land. Awesome. Welcome to the chat from Europe land, which is what I'm just going to call it from now on, Europe land. Okay, we have Maria. Hello in Sweden. Hello, Maria. Welcome. Oh, Indiana here. I hope you guys are all marked safe from Chris Farmer, all you guys in Indiana. Hello from PA. I'm also going to be visiting PA later this month. Not Philadelphia, but I'm going to a friend's wedding. I probably shouldn't say what city it is, but I don't know. Maybe I will some other time. Okay. Love from Stockholm, Sweden. Hello, LM. Welcome to the chat. And it says here, hey, Goldie. Yeah, I mean, poor Goldie. Okay, hold on. Hey there, LM hand. Okay. I don't even give Goldie any advance notice for when I go live, but Goldie is the world's best moderator. And thank you, Goldie for always being there. Amber Fallon, hello from Birmingham. Hello, Amber. Welcome to the chat. Lori plays. Happy Friday, Aaron and chat. Happy Friday, everyone. Oh, someone from Denmark. Good evening from Denmark. This is a perfect Friday evening entertainment live from SPTV. Very nice. It is 10:30 p.m. here in Copenhagen. Wow, you guys are actually 8 hours ahead. I didn't realize. I tend to always think of, well, I think England is 6 hours ahead. So just in my ignorant way, I tend to think that all of Europe is 6 hours ahead. But I guess that's stupid because it's not true. Oh, did I see someone in Belfast? Hold on. Did I see someone in the, I know that I did, but I was scrolling too fast. I do plan on visiting Ireland soon, Dublin specifically. That would be a lot of fun. Okay, let me see here. Here we go. Nadia Rodriguez. Aaron, you should establish SPTV as a multi-channel network on YouTube. Leah could have then anchor high production quality channel. Leah could have then, I generally get what you're saying, even though I'm not sure specifically what you're saying. So it's a fantastic idea. I tend to procrastinate when it comes to executing on fantastic ideas like that. I guess that's a desperate plea to ask someone else to please do whatever it takes to do whatever this great idea is. Mark Headley is the one who tends to be really good on executing on big ideas quickly. I just have a lazy streak in me that unless it's due tomorrow, I'm probably not working on it today. And Scientology's probably running around trying to snatch up any SPTV properties, you know, as we speak. You know what I'm saying? But as a I don't even know how to create a multi-channel network on YouTube. I don't even know what that would mean or what that would look like. I'm trying to think of other examples of like things that are similar to what you're talking about. And I can't think of any, but I feel like it's a thing. I feel like it is. Someone ought to check into it and maybe let me know. Okay, DJ Dealer. Hi there, Aaron. In your estimation, how many people has the Aftermath Foundation helped exit Scientology since its founding? Love your content. So it's hard to say specifically because we don't keep statistics on every single person who we talk to or who we give advice to. And the only thing there's hard numbers on is the amount of money that we have approved to be dispersed to various people for various things. Luckily, we don't any longer exist in that Scientology culture where everything has to be statusized and micromanaged at every time. Luckily, with the Aftermath Foundation, we're not burdened with this need to, whatever we did last month, we have to do more this month. You know, whatever we did yesterday, we have to do more today. Our goal is to be able to help everyone who requests it and is qualified. And so, you know what I mean? So the goal isn't even, we must keep helping more and more and more people. It's just everyone who requests it and is qualified. Now, when I talk about the numbers, how I do describe it is I say every single week we are helping people who are leaving Scientology. And that is an accurate statement. That doesn't necessarily mean we're approving money every week, but every single week we are talking to and advising and helping people who are somewhere in the process of leaving Scientology. It's not quite every day. Some weeks it is every day, but it's not every day. So I don't say every day. It's most certainly every week. And, you know, there's also websites that sort of aggregate the publicly available filings of nonprofits, 501c3s. So guidestar.org is one such website. And so anybody can look up the filings that the Aftermath Foundation has made publicly, and that information is there. Yeah, let me see. Is there any other part of this question? How many people? Yeah. So, and also realize not everybody who leaves Scientology needs help from the Aftermath Foundation or would want help from the Aftermath Foundation. A lot of people leave Scientology who already have experience in the outside world, who already have job histories, resumes, who have funds, who have family outside of Scientology. And some of those people may not even ever contact the foundation, even just to chat. Do you know what I mean? So we don't have a monopoly on helping people who leave Scientology. We're not the only port of call for people leaving Scientology. We sort of exist to make sure that we can be the last port of call for anyone and everyone who needs it. So great question. I appreciate that. Okay, we have LK Niche super sticker. Damn, LK Niche. Thank you very much. That's very generous. I appreciate that. Let's see. What else do we have? Oh, yeah, here's a good one. Lane Berlin. Do you know anything about the band Dead Sarah? Yes, they're Scientologists, but the lead singer, who's second gen, is openly gay. thought that was interesting. It is interesting. So let me look up who, I forget her name. Dead Sarah lead singer. Emily Armstrong. Emily Armstrong is not just a second generation Scientologist. If I recall correctly, Emily Armstrong actually grew up in the cadet org. Our parents were Sea Org members. If I recall correctly, I could always be wrong, but I recall having conversations with people who grew up in the cadet org, and they tell stories of Emily being one of them. She grew up with them. Now, this thing about some Scientologists right now living as uncloseted gay lives is strange. Scientology would never have allowed that before. And even with Travolta, if he were to be open instead of deeply closeted, it would be a problem for Scientology. And yet I can give you other examples of longtime Scientologists living open. And Catherine Bell is one of those. Catherine Bell was married to a man, and the woman she's now with, also a second generation Scientologist, was also married to a man, all of whom were Scientologists. And Catherine divorced her husband, and Brooke, what's Brooke's last name? Brooke Daniels. But Daniels is her maiden name, but it's what she's always gone by. Brooke's mom's name is Penny. I forget Penny's name. Anyway, Brooke Daniels was married to Ken Daniels. Catherine Bell was married to, I never knew who she was married to. They both divorced their husbands so that they could get together. And they have been together ever since. Just Google it. If you Google Catherine Bell, Brooke Daniels, they're not secretive about it. And yet I could probably say with a high level of certainty, Scientology probably almost likes having them around so that they can try to present a more gay-friendly face of Scientology. You know, Scientology is very dishonest to the public about what it really believes, even about the things it really believes, like, you know, the highest levels of the bridge, you know, at least. They really don't like the fact that they have this reputation of being like militantly anti-gay. And yet they are. But I do think they like having people like Catherine and Brooke and even Emily Armstrong around, just so that they can sort of hang those people out as examples of, see, we're not anti-LGBTQ, because if we were, these people couldn't be members. When the truth is more along the lines of Scientology will never kick anybody out of the group for being gay. They just won't let you progress up the bridge. They see being gay as just something that auditing should fix. And if you are gay and you're still willing to be in Scientology and get auditing and buy auditing, Scientology is willing to take your money and give you auditing. That's pretty much how that works. So yeah, Scientology is not kicking anybody out. Now, it does beg the question, why would Emily bother to continue to be a member? It's like, come on now. And the answer to that really might just come down to familial connections. Like, when's the last time, I haven't Googled it and I'm not going to right now, but when's the last time you ever heard Emily Armstrong actually promoting Scientology? Does she actually talk about it? Does she promote it? I don't even know. I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't. And it's probably just one of these things where as long as she sort of keeps her mouth shut about Scientology, Scientology will keep their mouth shut about her. You know what I mean? So that's what I have to say about that. Thank you, Lane. I appreciate that comment. Okay, Devin, Laura. Hey, Devin, always good to see you here. Are celebrity audits spread around as much as normal people's? And are they aware their secrets are being talked about amongst staff and the Sea Org? Excellent question. You know, I have from time to time said that public are aware that what's in their auditing files is not necessarily secret. But I wonder if I'm only saying that because my experience is from, you know, the other side behind the curtain, and I just always assumed everybody must know. I was never a paying public Scientologist. And sometimes it can be hard for me to know exactly what was going through, what goes through the heads of public people who were just and only and ever public Scientologists. It seems to me that any public Scientologist knows that your auditor, you can have many different auditors in Scientology. It's not like you just have one auditor. Auditors come and go. And case supervisor. A case supervisor is the person who reads the notes of the auditing sessions and instructs the auditor on whether they did a good job or a bad job or what they should do differently or anything. So any public Scientologist should know that any auditor can potentially access the folder. Any case supervisor can potentially access the folder. There's something called a director of processing. It's almost like if the auditors are the members of a baseball team, the director of processing is like the manager of the team. Any person getting auditing should know that any director of processing can access the auditing files, and anyone in the organization senior to that person can access the auditing files. If public Scientologists aren't aware of that, it would be a surprise to me. Now, that being said, staff members like to chit-chat amongst themselves about what comes up in people's auditing. But what I don't know is, does that chit-chat ever hit the public? It's possible that it doesn't. It's possible that public Scientologists do not hear the chit-chat that goes on amongst the staff in the Sea Org regarding what's in their auditing files. But remember this, there's auditing, and then there's the ethics officer and what they call ethics cycles and what happens with the ethics officer. Any public Scientologist should also be aware of the fact that even if they think that what happens in the auditing room is confidential, they really should know that what happens in the ethics office isn't confidential, especially if you're at a big ethics office like Flag, or you know, anyone who goes through Flag has been sitting there in the ethics office and has been able to overhear, you know, the salacious ethics interview happening 3 feet away. There's a culture in Scientology kind of openness where it's just not considered a huge deal if people know your dirt. So to go back to the specifics of this question, are celebrity audits spread around as much as normal people? I would have to say yes, but it's also, I also don't want to create the impression that, you know, every day at lunch, staff members are just gossiping about what came up in session that day. It's not quite that egregious, because you really aren't supposed to be openly chatting about such stuff, but it does occur. And now remember, celebrities also don't tend to get auditing either just at the Celebrity Center or perhaps just at Flag. Those staff, like the staff at the Celebrity Center, might be likely to chit chat about a lot of this stuff amongst themselves, but you're not really going to get staff at the Celebrity Center chit chatting about celebrity business with people outside of the Celebrity Center. So I'm trying to answer this question, you know, from as many different perspectives as possible. So in some ways, I would say yes. The people at CC, for example, are probably just as likely to chit chat about celebrity gossip as in a normal org, those people would be likely to chit chat about normal people's gossip. But there, it does still end up being kind of contained, even if only to the Celebrity Center itself. Thank you for that question, Laura. Much appreciated. Okay, we have Tara Han 81. Hey, Aaron, just saying hi. Thanks for making my Friday on-call workday much easier. Well, welcome to the chat, Tara. It is truly my pleasure. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for the super chat. Okay, let's see here. And I'm trying to look for other comments as well, not just super chats, just to spread the love around a bit. Okay, let's see. Oh, here's one. Batgoat. Wearing FUBU gear. Wearing FUBU gear and Kango and gold chains be out of valence? 100% yes. So for any who may not be aware, actually, I don't know what Kango is. Let me look it up. Kango. What's Kango? Kango rides, carpools, and childcare for kids. I'm guessing that's not what you're referring to. Okay, let me see. Is Kango chain a thing? Nope, Kango chain is not a thing. I know what FUBU is. So FUBU is a brand. It stands for us, by us, founded by Damon John, one of the Shark Tank guys. It's for us, by us. I think it's fair to say refers generally to who's us. Us is the Black community in this context. Let me share this screen here. Okay. Okay, let me see. How do I? Okay, so this is for us, by us, FUBU. Another time, thank you. Yep, you'll notice you don't see any white folk on this one. So this is considered an urban brand, a Black brand. And I'll tell you this. See, Scientology has this way of just enforcing its weird cultural, non-stated, unstated cultural norms upon each other. Because I swear to God, I kid you not, I was at the Philadelphia org, and even at the Philadelphia org, where I believe in Philly, the majority of the population of Philadelphia is Black. There were still almost zero Black staff members or public at the Scientology org. But I will tell you this. If a young Black person came into the Philly org dressed in FUBU gear or sports gear or the backwards hat or the backwards askew hat or chains or whatever, I can promise you nobody would say that person was out of valence. But if a young white person came in dressed the same way, I can promise you people would say that person is out of valence. And you might go, why? Based on what? And the answer is based on nothing. There's nothing in writing about any of this stuff. And I didn't even really start thinking about this really for deeply until about like a day or two ago. It might have even been this morning. I was like, what did we ever base the concept of being in valence? How does the determination of whether someone was in valence or out of valence? How did anyone make such a decision? There's nothing in writing that describes what would make someone in valence or out of valence. And then you go, okay, then what are people making that decision based on? Their own personal, racial, and cultural norms. And that's how you end up with Scientologists all sort of looking and acting and communicating and presenting alike. I had totally forgotten that there's this idea of, oh, you're out of valence, you're out of valence. And everyone's being told you're out of valence is a pretty big insult in Scientology. So, all right, that was our question about FUBU. So thank you for that. All right, Katie, Buffalo firefighter was killed in the line of duty Wednesday. Went to site of fire to leave flowers. Had to park down the street in front of the Buffalo org. Doors locked, empty. Looked abandoned midday. Wow. Yeah. Buffalo. And that's incredible because, you know, the Buffalo Scientology org was probably the first Scientology org that Miscavige used that org to start his ideal org strategy of buying these new massive buildings for existing organizations, sort of a if you build it, they will come strategy for Scientology. And I remember, God, I hope I get this right, San Francisco, Buffalo, and Tampa were the first three orgs. And the idea was to use cities in different parts of the country, in different types of cities. So San Francisco, a huge city. Tampa, I guess not quite as huge. And then Buffalo, just like very small comparatively. And how we pitched this to Scientology was like, look, we can prove that this strategy works essentially everywhere in the United States. And the fact that we're like 20 years later and Buffalo is doors locked, empty, looks abandoned. That is exactly something that Scientologists who are still inside the bubble should take a moment to consider that fact and consider what that actually means. The ideal org strategy is dead. We're 20 years later. When David Miscavige first announced the ideal org strategy to everybody in like 2004, 2005, I remember part of what the information that he shared with everybody, or at least part of the chatter that was going around, is that Scientology was contracting with this massive international architectural design and construction company to get all Scientology orgs in the world done, meaning new buildings purchased and renovated and opened within 12 months. And this was like, oh my God, this is how we're going to clear the earth. This is how everyone's going to get into Scientology. It's going to be amazing. If David Miscavige had said back then, hey, this is the strategy we're going to embark upon, and by the way, 20 years later, we're still only going to be halfway done with our strategy, there would have been a revolt. If ever something could have gotten David Miscavige removed from power, it would be if Miscavige actually, appeared in front of the Scientology audience, the Scientology world, and said, hey, we have a strategy. And at the end of that strategy, we're going to release OT 9 and 10. And the strategy is going to take 30 years. Miscavige would end up being deposed from power. I don't know how. I don't know what mechanisms would allow it to occur, but it would occur. One of the ways Miscavige retains power is constantly giving everybody the impression that the pivotal moment of Scientology exploding in growth and taking over the world is just over the horizon. We're almost there. We're almost there. Just give a little bit more money. Just give a little bit more time. Just send a little bit more of your, send us a little bit more of your children for the Sea organization. And yeah, it's that carrot. They keep chasing that carrot. So yeah, you Scientologists out there, go by Buffalo and see how Buffalo is desolate, abandoned, and empty. And that's what your org is going to look like in 10 years. All right. Thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. Fabian and Deal, suggestion. You reach out to Katie Lohman and try to get an interview. Fabian, thank you for the super chat. So on some level, because I know that a Scientologist would be declared most likely for appearing on my channel and doing an interview with me, I would feel almost like I was just being an asshole if I reached out to her and asked her for an interview. It's kind of like when the president's walking away from the booth and you're just screaming questions at him just so that it looks like he's running away from questions. Do you know what I mean? Like you're kind of just being a dick. So I know Katie would not be allowed to do the interview with me. It would be against her best interest to do the interview with me. I mean, unless the idea here would be, well, no, it's against her best interest to continue to be in Scientology. So there's nothing dickish about asking her to do something that would get her declared. And that's an interesting way of thinking about it. It just tends to not be the way I do think about it. So anyway, that's just a bunch of gibberish to say that I'm probably not going to do that. But I do hope that Katie, if she wants to do an interview with me, would just reach out to me. But let's be real, that's not going to happen. It would be just as interesting if she decided to leave Scientology and went back on Andrew's channel to have a conversation about that. That would be fascinating. Thank you for the comment, Fabian. I really appreciate it. Let's see what else we have here. Hello from Finland. Thanks for the timing of this video. Oh my goodness, I see I'm already 25 minutes behind the chat. So let me catch up, get my butt in gear here. Janet Cheney, I remember you from an earlier chat. Thank you for joining me again, and thank you very much for the super sticker. Devin, also, when are the Ashton Kutcher videos coming? Devin, did I say I was going to do more about Ashton Kutcher? I think I did. But the thing is that, oh no, there is more to do about Ashton. There is more to do about Ashton. I just don't necessarily want to pick on him for no good reason. So if there's more to do on Ashton, it'll have to wait for the right time. It's not very high on my list of videos to do. And it might, in order to do the next Ashton video, I might actually have to have someone join me on the video who has personal knowledge and is willing to discuss it. Otherwise, it might just seem like I'm making it up, and I don't want it to seem that way. So we'll see. So the answer, Devin, really is I don't know. But as long as you stay tuned and you watch your SPTV, it'll come eventually. Thanks, Devin. I appreciate it. Amber Fallon, love you, Aaron. What is your connection to Brighton? I don't know, Amber. It must be some real whole track past life stuff because I've never been to Brighton. I know some people from Brighton, but I mean, no relationships that I remember that were particularly remarkable or noteworthy. Just people that I knew from Scientology, from the Brighton org, but no one that was like, oh, I was really good friends with particularly. So, yeah, I think what it was. Let me try to remember. So when my wife and I were still in Scientology, we had a friend who was having a kid, and they named their baby London. And I remember going, that's a really cool name. And I kind of love the idea of having a name that's also a city. And then I think what it was is when we were having our second child, we thought, well, are there any other names of cities that would also make really cool names for kids? And I think that's where we were like, well, either Brighton or Brisbane. And our second child we named Brighton, and our third child we named Brisbane. So I do have a connection to Brisbane, though. So thank you for that question. Let's see. Next one here. Quentin. I remember you, Quentin. Hey, girl, are you auditing OT7? Because you're speaking directly to my soul. That is a good Scientology pickup line. The problem is that it would only ever work on a Scientologist who had actually done the OT levels, because for the lower level Scientologists, they don't know what's on the OT levels. They've never heard of body thetans, and they don't know that on the OT levels, you're telepathically auditing body thetans. But if you remove all of those details from the equation, that is a fantastic Scientology pickup line. So kudos to you. Duke Longfellow. Good evening from Croatia, sir. Well, good evening in Croatia. I'm curious, what is the general strategy of the church for smaller developing countries like ours? Cheers. You are giving Scientology way too much credit by assuming they have any general strategy whatsoever. The evidence that they have no general strategy is the gradual and yet persistent decline of Scientology's membership for about the last, late 80s, early 90s. So it certainly seems that as of right now, Scientology's only strategy is buy big new buildings for existing tiny organizations so that we can make it appear that our tiny failing organizations are big, successful, thriving organizations. And at its essence, that is only a money-making strategy, because it's actually not a growth strategy. It is almost an anti-growth strategy, because having these big, massive buildings that have massive electric bills and water bills makes the experience of being on staff in these organizations even worse than it normally would be, because having these massive buildings has increased the overhead of these organizations to the point where there's no money left over for staff pay. Now, there's already usually almost no money left over for staff pay, even with a small, crappy org building. But you're making what's a bad situation into an even worse situation by increasing the overhead of every single one of these tiny failing orgs. And it makes it harder to keep staff members. You end up with even greater staff turnover than you already had. It makes it much harder to recruit new staff. And so this general strategy literally is just a money-making strategy. It's not even a real strategy on how to expand Scientology. And that should be obvious to David Miscavige. We have to assume that it is obvious. It makes one wonder, what are Miscavige's true motivations? When you walk into one of these Scientology orgs that has a big, massive building, the first thing that you're struck with isn't, oh, wow, it's a beautiful building. The first thing you're struck with is, where the hell is everyone? It's a ghost town. When you walk into an organization that has these such a big, beautiful building, one of the things you're going to assume is they must need this building. This must be a big, bustling, happening, thriving place. And you walk in and it's like crickets. It's like you're the only one in there. So it makes the Scientology experience even more negative right from the outset, right from the first time you walk into the doors. You're like, am I the only one? Man, if everyone else is smart enough to stay away from this place, maybe I should turn around and walk right out. So when you talk about like good evening from Croatia, okay, what's the general strategy for the church for smaller developing countries? The strategy, if there actually was a strategy, should be open an org, a small org with low overhead, train maybe a dozen staff, put the org where there's a heavy body traffic. So, get the low hanging fruit. You can just stand outside, hand out promo, sell books, do stress tests, bring them in, show the movies, whatever. That's how Scientology organizations actually thrived back in the 60s and the 70s. It's not, the 60s and the 70s showed that it is possible for Scientology to expand. I don't want it to expand. I don't care if it expands, but history has shown that it's at least possible for it to expand. Under Miscavige, he's figured out how to do the opposite. And there really is no strategy. So thank you for the comment, Duke. Much appreciated. Dave Owens, Aaron, making destroying a human trafficking cult fun for everyone. Well done, brother. That is such an awesome tagline for this channel. I might even update my channel description to include that. Making destroying a human trafficking cult fun for everyone. That is awesome. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Beaker Bob, if Val gets an arbitration, is it 3 against her? Unfair? Beaker Bob is referring to Valerie Haney, the Sea Org member who used to work directly for Shelley Miscavige, who had to escape from Scientology's international base in the trunk of a car of a non-Scientologist who just happened to be on the INT base shooting a film for Scientology. And she is currently suing Scientology, and she is currently in the process. The court has ruled that she has to submit herself to a Scientology arbitration. And I've done videos on that. I won't try to rehash the entire thing right here. And I'll do many more videos about it. But the answer to your question is yes. First of all, Val, I believe, will get an arbitration. Scientology will have to do the arbitration. They will have to, because realize if Scientology is so obstructionist in this process that the court rules that Valerie doesn't have to do the arbitration, then that is a horrible precedent for Scientology. So Scientology will eventually allow this arbitration to occur. They'll stop being sort of difficult about this. But yes, it will be 3 against her. 3 Scientologists in good standing will be her arbitration panel, and Valerie will be there. And based on the only other arbitration that's ever occurred in Scientology, we can expect Scientology to tell Valerie that she's not allowed to have a lawyer present, that she's not allowed to record the proceedings, and she's not allowed to introduce evidence that is considered upsetting to Scientologists. Personally, and what do I know? This is just my opinion. I would love for Valerie to show up with a lawyer and refuse to go into the arbitration without a lawyer. Because I just know that's what I would do. Now, maybe if I were in Valerie's shoes, my lawyer would tell me that that's not acceptable. Like maybe the lawyer will tell Valerie, you have to actually do everything Scientology tells you to do, so that we can then go to the court and show them how ridiculous it was. Do you know what I mean? So even though I'm saying, oh, what I would do is X, Y, and Z, doesn't mean it's the best thing to do. I would also insist on recording the proceeding. Because by the way, what Scientology does is they say, you can't record this. And they'll search you. They'll check your phone. They'll check you for devices. And then once they've verified you're not recording, they record it. It's absolutely ridiculous. So we'll see what happens. Valerie has some incredibly smart attorneys, and I'm sure whatever their strategy here, it's to most effectively show the court just how ridiculous and unfair and abusive the fictitious Scientology arbitration procedure really is. Thank you so much, Beaker Bob. I really appreciate the super chat. Okay, we got another one here. And Anise 037. Thank you for the earlier time for the live. It's not often I manage to catch these live living in Finland. Well, thank you so much. That's another part of the world I'm dying to go to, is Scandinavia, which is what? Norway, Finland, and Sweden, and Denmark. For some reason, I've never been particularly attracted to Denmark. But I would like to go to Norway and Finland and Sweden. I also am dying to go to Greenland and Iceland. So there you go. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. And that's exactly why I decided to do this a little earlier today. Okay, Marie Kenny, thank you for the super sticker. Much appreciated. Brenda Farah, wow, caught you live 2 days in a row. Awesome. Love watching you. Thank you so much. This also might be the first time I've ever done a live Q&A 2 days in a row. It used to be I just did live Q&As like once a week and not even every week. But the truth is, they're so much fun. And you know, the internet world, the YouTube world is such a big audience. Even, you know, I've got 145,000 subscribers. How many of those subscribers have ever actually had an opportunity to be on a live Q&A? Like, it's easy to think that if you do these things over and over again, you must be talking to the same people over and over and over again. But it's just not true. The world's just a massive, massive place. So I might do these a lot more often. We'll see. I can't think at this point, I can't really think of a good reason not to do them more often. I enjoy doing them. People enjoy participating. So why the heck not? Okay. Fan Ranker. Do they know who leaked the Xenu story to South Park? Thank you for the super chat, Fan Ranker. So, all the information that South Park used in their Scientology episode is stuff that was already leaked on the internet decades and decades earlier. So, nobody would have had to leak that information to South Park specifically. And Scientology does, in fact, know who leaked the OT levels to the internet originally. And they actually... Scientology sued that person. Scientology had that person's home raided by the authorities. This was back in the early days of the internet when Scientology could really get away with bullying people and stuff. They can't do that anymore, as evidenced by my channel and Mark Headley's channel and Mike Rinder's channel. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, Leah Remini's getting her channel going as well. I saw that she just uploaded. I think Leah Remini just uploaded like the first ever episode that they did of the Fair Game podcast. She just uploaded that to her YouTube channel. So, which means she has the rights to that, I imagine, which was surprising to me, but excellent news, which means we can expect all of the episodes of the Fair Game podcast to be uploaded to YouTube, which is excellent. And I believe what we'll eventually see happen, we will see a continuation of the Fair Game podcast, but on YouTube instead of just, being done by Mike and Leah, instead of being put through some publisher who can be harassed by Scientology and have their advertisers, inundated with hateful letter writing campaigns from Scientologists and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for the super chat, Fan Ranker. Very much appreciated. Okay, let's see. How far behind? Oh my God, you guys, I'm still 28 minutes behind the chat. Good Lord. Deanna B, good to see you there, Deanna. Thank you for the super sticker. Oh, Deanna B here again. Okay. You didn't mean to do a super sticker. You meant to do a chat. Let's try again. Super chat. Let's try again. Super chat again. Okay. What kind of auditing would an LGBTQ member get to get rid of the gay? Excellent question. Sec checking and false purpose rundown. So sec checking is security checking. That's a very invasive form of auditing. Even though in the beginning of many sec checks, they actually say, I'm not auditing you, but that's just kind of a technicality. That means anything you say in this session is stuff you can get in trouble for. But the procedure is still the same for a sec check, whether it's considered auditing or whether it's considered not auditing. Sec checking is really you just interrogation style, trying to find out bad things that you've done. False purpose rundown is sort of a super deluxe version of sec checking, where the purpose is not just to find out what you've done, but then to find out what evil purposes you had that motivated you to do those things. And then from Scientology's perspective, figure out what caused you to have that evil purpose so that the evil purpose disappears, so that you'll no longer feel motivated to do those harmful things. And you can get FPRD style sec checking, otherwise just known as FPRD, on any dynamic. Remember, Scientology has its 8 dynamics. The first dynamic is self, second dynamic is family, third dynamic is groups, fourth dynamic is all mankind, fifth dynamic is plant and animal life, sixth dynamic is the physical universe, seventh dynamic is the spiritual universe, and the 8th dynamic is like infinity or God. And you can get FPRD style sect checking. There are FPRD sect checking lists, forms for every dynamic. And then you can get tailor-made FPRD sect checking on any dynamic or any subject. So this is essentially Scientology's tool to fix anything that's considered non-optimum. Is they just keep giving you FPRD style sect checking on that subject until you decide you would rather change your behavior than continue to pay for and receive FPRD style sect checking. Let's be honest. That's the only reason anyone's behavior ever changes from FPRD is people are like, okay, I cry uncle. I'll stop. You know, if you're John Travolta, I'll stop meeting up with men in gym locker rooms at 3 o'clock in the morning in you know, St. Pete. I give up. I give in. You know, I don't want to keep getting this sect checking. I'll live clean for a few months. I mean, it's that kind of stuff. Not to pick on John Travolta, but it's a real example. You know what I'm saying? Okay. That's the wrong one. Things Too Much. Thank you for the super sticker. Things Too Much. I really appreciate it. Okay, scrolling. Jesse Schaefer. Hi from Reading, PA. Do you think TC and DM are actually a gay couple but pretend to be best friends instead for appearance's sake? So Tom Cruise is not actually gay. Oh, wait. Okay, because I was just talking about John Travolta. I actually thought your comment said Tom Cruise and John Travolta. Okay. No, I do not think TC and DM are a gay couple. Yeah, I mean, I know they're not. They're not. But they're definitely not. But it is sort of funny to think of these two these two guys who both think what they do think. They think they are the two biggest beings on this planet. The big beings, which again is one of those things in Scientology there's not really a definition for. Like, technically in Scientology, there aren't different types of beings. But there is this word big beings that gets used in Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard, I think, mentioned it in a couple places without really defining it. Again, it's one of those things that you're just supposed to know what it means, that some beings just have more horsepower. And you're like, I thought Thetans didn't have any place in space or time, had no mass or wavelength. And now we're talking about Thetans having horsepower. And you're just supposed to be like, yeah, that makes sense. So Tom and Dave see themselves as the two biggest beings in existence. It's a little ironic that they also both happen to be as small as this. Have you guys seen my vintage life-size David Miscavige plush doll? Yeah, this Keebler elf is just like David Miscavige in every way if this Keebler elf ran a worldwide multi-billion-dollar human trafficking cult. So yeah, it's ironic that the two biggest beings in existence occupy two of the smallest bodies in existence. But hey, it's you just roll the dice. You get what you get. All right, we're having fun. All right, thank you for that. Decultified. Hey, Aaron, I was wondering how many OSA dislikes your videos get on average. Love from England. YouTube doesn't actually show you how many dislikes you have anymore. Not even on the back end. Like, I think on the front end, you can see how many likes there are. And on the back end, it just shows you a percentage and a percentage of how many people liked your video. And I guess you could work out, you could do the math and figure out how many dislikes you have. I've never bothered to do that. I mean, every one of my videos is like 98 or 99% liked, as I'm assuming most videos on YouTube actually are. But yeah, Scientology doesn't even seem to be very effective in utilizing bot farms to harass us. But I don't want to give them any ideas either. So thank you for that, Decultified. LK Niche is back again. Damn, LK Niche. Look at you. I'm so sorry I've missed your chat all week. I was watching a court case all week. Definitely felt like I was cheating on you. And I have a lot to catch up on tonight. I'll be binge watching everything you've put out this week. Well, that is amazing. I'll tell you what, Danny Masterson, I believe his team is going to put in a request for cameras in the retrial. And for the sake of the Jane Does, I hope that doesn't happen. But if for whatever reason it is approved, I can tell you what, I'll be live streaming it without question. That would be anyway. I doubt that request will be approved, but I just occurred to me to mention that because you've been watching a case all week. Oh, were you watching? There has been I must know the case that you're watching. I'm gonna the guy who was the attorney general or something or other of that state and basically killed his whole family or something. Horrible case. I've been seeing a lot of the coverage on it, although I haven't been watching or reading the coverage because I'm like, yeah. It's messy. It's messy. But anyway, thank you for the super chat. And I hope you enjoy your binge watching. I mean, that's a good use of a Friday night. You know what I'm saying? Thank you again. Carl Anthony. Carl, thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate it. Kitty Mom, where is the Philly org? 1315 Race Street is the address of the Philly org. It used to be across from a car wash, but long ago that car wash was destroyed and it's a big convention center now. So it's right across from the Philly Convention Center, which is a pretty good, ideal location for an org building. The org building is in complete disrepair. It looks horrible. It looks like trash. It's dirty. There's hardly any staff. There's even less public. I believe Steve Olek is still the executive director of that org. Man, Steve Olek's been in Scientology. I mean, Steve Olek's been in Scientology. He's a first-generation Scientologist. His daughter, Selena, is born and raised in Scientology. I believe Selena's out of Scientology these days. Poor Steve. I don't even know if Steve's with his wife, Cindy Olek, anymore. I'm not sure. But anyway, where's the Philly org? I grew up in Central PA, and I'm back there now, but I lived in the Philly suburbs for 15 years, and I worked in the city for 5. Kitty Mom, you know, I say that I grew up in Malvern, Pennsylvania. Malvern is a suburb of Philly on the main line. And I say I grew up there, but I was only in Malvern from the 4th grade to the 7th grade. So that's 4 years. But when you're that young, 4 years is like, that's a lot of years. And by the time I left Malvern, yeah, I'd lived in Malvern longer than I'd lived anywhere else. So let's see. In Malvern, I went to the Katie Markley grade school and the General Wayne middle school. And if I had, was it General Wayne? Yeah, it was. What was the name of the high school? I don't remember. Just Great Valley High School, maybe. So anyway, that's where I grew up in Malvern. And let's see, in Malvern, what was 519 Highland Ave? Was that the Malvern address? And then 122 South Warren Ave. Those were the 2 houses we lived in Malvern. So 1315 Ray Street, Kitty Mom, go on by, say hi, say, Steve Olek, if you want to leave Scientology and you need any help, the Aftermath Foundation will help you. Thank you for that, Kitty Mom. Okay, I see another one here. Carl Anthony, appreciate what you do. Curious, is Shelly okay? Concerned, any chance the church made her disappear? Carl, I'll tell you what, instead of giving the whole answer to that question right here, let me refer you to another interview segment. I did an interview recently that was published last week on the Lex Friedman podcast. Lex Friedman has a separate channel called Lex Clips, where he published over 15 clips from our interview. One of those clips was about Shelly Miscavige. It's only about a 5-minute clip. If I can remember, I'll even put a link to it in the description below. But if you just Google search Lex Friedman, Aaron Smith-Levin, Shelly Miscavige, you'll find the clip. It'll give you the whole answer. And anyone else watching the feed who wonders that same thing, feel free to go ahead and check out that video and let me know what you think. Or comment on that clip and let me know what you think. Thank you, Carl. Maha Lock. We don't hear from Tampa Brad anymore. Might still be looking for the darn earring. There is another Tampa Brad video that I haven't responded to yet, or that I haven't done a reaction video to yet. Sometimes I do feel like I'm picking on a handicapped child when I review Brad's videos. It does feel like low-hanging fruit. And it's something I probably only creep up to the top of my videos list on a day when I'm really, really bored. But I'll get around to him eventually. I really do have to assume that one of these days Scientology is going to tell him to just knock it off with the Scientology videos. You're not helping anybody. So we'll see. We'll see. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Okay, 5, 4, 6, Queen. I'm confused why people stay or join Scientology. What does Scientology offer that is positive? So the lower levels of Scientology are very self-helpy, and they're very so it can be positive. The message at those lower levels can be very positive, inspirational, empowering, from the perspective that what they're essentially saying is you personally have the power to change and improve anything in your life that you're unhappy with. And we, Scientology, can give you the tools to do that. And all you have to do is apply these tools and your life will get better. And at the lower levels, the courses are cheap enough that as long, like these days, there's a lot of introductory stuff that you can do from 50 to 100 to a couple $100. At those lower levels, the courses are cheap enough that if you can really hard sell, like really convince somebody that that's what they're going to get from these services, you can keep people coming in for those services. And at those lower levels, these people aren't really subject to the kind of abusive, controlling aspects of Scientology that you hear about from people that have been in Scientology for longer. Because at the lower levels, they're really doing their best to keep people from being exposed to what is real Scientology. And I know, you know, to a true believing Scientologist that's in the bubble, if they listen to what I just said, they'd go, that's not true. The lower levels of Scientology are real Scientology. And you go, yeah, it's real Scientology at the lower levels. Like that really is what lower level Scientology really is. But Scientology changes what it really is as you go. And that's something that I think is easy to lose sight of when you are a Scientologist and you're in the bubble and you have your little blinders on and you have your conditioned way of thinking that you're not aware of because it's your blind spot. Scientologists' blind spot is that they have a controlled way of thinking. You'll never meet a Scientologist who will agree with the idea that they have a controlled way of thinking, but that's because it's their blind spot. And it's called a blind spot for a reason. You can't see it. If you could see it, it wouldn't be a blind spot. And that's one of the reasons why it's not really productive to argue with Scientologists about things like this. They'll come to these understandings on their own in their own time. And there's really nothing you can do to force people to see their blind spots. That's my opinion, at least. What do I know, guys? I grew up in a cult. Okay. Shazzy Sharon. Story is St. Pete downtown Scientology building is empty. The city allowed its only strip club to be next door to keep them away. If I was a Scientologist and there was a strip club next door, I'd probably be more inclined to go to course. I mean, that sounds like a good time. Get to go on course, go in session and see, see some live entertainment. Where's the downside to that? So I have seen some photos of the Scientology building in St. Pete, and it actually does look literally abandoned. Not just like it might be. Like there's signs up in the windows, no trespassing. There's homeless people sleeping in the front of the building. If those buildings were occupied, the Scientologists would never put up with that. They would chase the homeless people away. Again, that's one of those things. Scientologists have to ask themselves, what does it mean that the only Scientology building in all of St. Petersburg is literally vacant and abandoned? How can we possibly believe what management is telling us about Scientology being the fastest growing religion in the world when the only building in St. Petersburg, Florida is shuttered? It's incredible. Okay, let's see. I'm still 30 minutes behind the chat. We're going to have a long Q&A here, you guys. Hey, more the better, right? Okay, let's see. CJ Lister. What are Scientology weddings like? How do they vary from Christian ones? What are the vows, etc.? There's really nothing standardized. I mean, there might be in the big book of Scientology ceremonies, some recommended Scientology ceremonies. And I guess now that I think about it, that's probably literally the definition of standardized, right? What I really mean when I say it's not standardized, there's no greater spiritual meaning to any Scientology ceremony you're ever going to see. How does it differ from a Christian one? Scientologists don't believe in anything relating to God, Christ, heaven or hell or the afterlife in a way that a Christian does. So, I mean, once upon a time, what happened is some Scientologists sat down and said, we should have a wedding ceremony. Let's put something together that sounds good. And just from memory, there's something like hold up the rings and imagine the ARC triangle in the center of the rings. The ARC triangle is a basic Scientology belief. It's just kind of, it's just exactly what you would have if someone sat down and did exactly what I just said. Hey, we're a religion, right? We call ourselves a church, right? We should probably have a wedding ceremony. Can someone sit down and write out something that we can use? That's why I say it's just, so that's another reason, actually, when I said it's not standardized, it's not like the only way you can do a Scientology ceremony is by reading the thing that's in the book. Because it's not like some sacred text. It's just some shit someone wrote. You could literally do anything. And as long as it has some Scientology words in it, you could call it a Scientology ceremony and nobody would object. So thank you for that question, CJ. I hope that answer satisfies you. I'm sure someone could actually just Google what is a Scientology wedding ceremony, and someone might have published an excerpt from the Scientology ceremonies book. By the way, the only reason there is a Scientology ceremonies book is because Miscavige realized it would help make Scientology look really, really churchy. And he had this big fat thing published. I don't even know what's in it because it's not required reading. Staff members and Scientologists don't have to read this thing. It just exists. So thank you again, CJ. Let's see. Care for JC YouTube. I remember you. Thanks for joining again. Follow-up question on small countries. Are most new Sea Org members from other countries? Well, when you say other countries, other than what? Remember, there's Sea Org bases in the US, in Canada, in Mexico, in the UK, in Denmark, in Australia, and Taiwan, and on the Freewinds ship, and in Clearwater, Florida. So I would say most Sea Org members most new Sea Org members in Australia come from Taiwan. Most new Sea Org members in the UK and Europe probably come from Europe. Most new Sea Org members in Los Angeles come from Mexico and South American countries. Most new Sea Org members in Clearwater come from Russia. And I'm guessing Europe. I've never heard anybody mention a lot of Russian Sea Org members in Europe or the UK or Australia. Maybe that's because if you're Russian, you really want to come to America. But anyway, maybe some of you in the chat, any of you former Sea Org members in the chat from the UK and Denmark and Australia, what was the prevalence of new Russian Sea Org members? But I mean, here at the Flag land base in Clearwater, Florida, where I live, I mean, it seems like sometimes you think this must be a Russian Sea Org base. There's so many Russians here, but there's also a lot of rich Russian public here too, which is interesting. So thank you for that question. Yeah, that's a good question. All right, let's see. Christian, here we go. Christian Donadio. Thank you for the super chat, Christian. If Grant Cardone pushes his employees to Scientology and they join, does he get paid by the church from that? Yes. Yes, he does. Grant would be considered their FSM, their field staff member, the person who introduced them to Scientology and is responsible for them taking that course, and he would get a commission. If so, isn't that just using his employees to pay him by pushing Scientology? Yes. His sales tactics are the same as Scientology. Bingo. And that's one of the reasons I do take great joy in highlighting Grant Cardone's criminality, because he really does rip people off in many different ways. And getting commissions by introducing his own staff to Scientology is one of those ways. Thank you, Christian. Excellent question. Dave Owens, it's all yours. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Okay, Foxglove. COS, Church of Scientology, were given permission to buy a historic building in Plymouth, UK. On proviso, they do it up. Nothing happened but fly tipping, etc. Well, now I got to look up what fly tipping means. Fly tipping. Is this really a thing? Oh, it is a thing. Gerund or present participle, fly tipping. To dump waste illegally. That's what fly tip means? Wow. So if I'm thinking of the building that you're talking about, it is actually a giant, gorgeous historic building. And from the moment Scientology bought this building, absolutely nothing has been done with it. And the reason for that is because they were able to scrape together enough money to buy the building. But to do that, they sucked so much money out of the members. They're not able to raise the rest of the money, new money, to renovate the building. Now, of course, David Miscavige could just dip into the $1 billion+ that's in Sea Org reserves and renovate that building. But that would defeat the point of the Ideal Org program, which is to use it as a money-making scheme. You would think this would become evident to all Scientologists in the world, since this scheme has been running for 20 years now, maybe 19. And the Ideal Org project isn't even halfway done. Scientologists have to start becoming aware of the fact that if the point of this strategy was to create organizations that would allow more people to get into Scientology, Miscavige wouldn't have allowed this strategy to drag on for 20 years, and he wouldn't have allowed your inability to come up with new funds. He would not allow that to be the obstacle that prevented this Ideal Org strategy from being completed. The purpose of this strategy is not to clear the planet. It's not to make St. Hill-sized orgs. It's not to boom Scientology. It's to keep the bank account of Scientology growing so that Miscavige can at least point to something and say he's creating expansion. So thank you for pointing that out. And the Scientologists in the Plymouth area of UK should start thinking about what it means that that building just sits there, untouched, unrenovated, unused, unoccupied. Thank you, Foxglove. Brett Grace. Always good to see you, Brett. Thanks for joining me here, and thanks for the super chat. Why wouldn't Miscavige just leave the country if he wanted to run from process servers and lawsuits? It's not like Scientology doesn't have a bunch of empty buildings around the world. So, Brett, remember here that he was hiding from process servers. Now remember, he did successfully hide from the process servers. Now, this would probably be the first answer to your question, which is that Miscavige can successfully hide from process servers at Scientology properties around the United States just as successfully as he could hide from process servers in, say, Colombia or Brazil or on the ship or in England. I mean, there's no Sea Org bases in Colombia or Brazil. I'm just saying, if you want to start talking about non-extradition countries, but I realize that's actually not even what you said. He doesn't need to leave the country to hide from process servers. Now you might go, but they served him. They served him through the Florida Secretary of State. And they were only able to do that once they were able to prove that he continued to hide from them and pretend that he didn't really work at these addresses that everyone knows he works at. So the point here really is that leaving the country would not have made him less able to be served through the Secretary of the State. And therefore, leaving the country wouldn't actually give him any additional greater advantage, at least with respect to these lawsuits. Excellent question, though. Thank you, Brett. Okay, let's see. I'm now 30 minutes behind the chat. But what do I care, guys? I got nowhere to be but right here talking to you guys. So let's do this. Okay, DB. Aaron, love your videos. Off topic. It's obvious that you shave your noggin. I, too, choose to rock the cue ball. Curious if you use a straight razor and how often you do it. I'm not brave enough to use a straight razor. I just use a regular razor. Well, actually, I'm about to promote a company that's not an advertiser, but I'd love to have them as one. I've been a member of Dollar Shave Club since the company launched back in, I don't know, it might have been 2009. So, I get the, just the normal razors you'd buy in the store, but I get them in the mail from Dollar Shave Club. And so I definitely don't use a straight razor, just a regular old razor. And sometimes it's every day, sometimes it's every other day, but it's definitely not less than every other day because this hair does grow, just on the sides and the back. And when it does start to grow, I look ridiculous. So The cue ball look works well. The cue ball with the Bozo the Clown hair growing around the sides, not a good look. Not a good look. Let's be honest. No one's looking at that and being like, I like that. Thank you, DB. Much appreciated. Very generous super chat. Thank you very much. Okay, Carla M. Forbes. Do we know how Katie stumbled upon Andrew's channel? Ideally, wouldn't she get in trouble for looking at anti-Scientology material? Excellent question, Carla. From all of the information I have reviewed, the conclusion that I've made is that she found Andrew's channel from Andrew's Tom Cruise content. And it just so happened his Tom Cruise content is also almost always Scientology content. It's pretty clear that Katie Lohman is infatuated with Tom Cruise. It's pretty clear she would like to be Katie Cruise part two. And yeah, so that's what I believe the answer to the question is. She's looking for Tom Cruise content. She watches Tom Cruise content. And probably because Google, the algorithms, the internet algorithms probably have detected that Katie is also interested in Scientology. And so since she's interested in Scientology and she's interested in Tom Cruise, YouTube probably served her up a bunch of Andrew's videos. And I think that's the answer. Thank you, Carla. I appreciate it. Dave Owens, you guys must take your show on the road. I would go. That would be so much fun. I can tell you we'd be probably much more likely to do something like that in Denver. And also, I'm not even sure what that would look like. I just know that it would be fun. Because anything with me, Mike, and Mark is a lot of fun. And then you add a lot of other people making into a party. It's guaranteed to be a lot of fun. But what would it be? I don't know. What would it be? Do you ever watch Tony Hinchcliffe has a weekly podcast show, live comedy show called Kill Tony. And I'm mentioning that because when I think, what would it be? What would it even be? What would it look like? You've got Tony Hinchcliffe up on stage at a table with 2 or 3 or 4 friends, and they're all, having fun and being silly. And then it's also it's a live open mic comedy show. So you've got them up there at the table. They're having fun. Stand-up comic comes up, does a little bit, gets roasted by everyone on the panel. I'm not saying that if we took our show on the road, it would be an open mic comedy show, but I just feel like it would have to be something like that, right? There'd have to be a stage involved. There'd have to be a table. There'd have to be some sort of microphones involved. And beyond that, I don't know what it would be. Maybe it would just be a Q&A, a live in-person Q&A or something. I don't know. Maybe part of the road show would be us reenacting the deposition of David Miscavige. Oh my God, I still got to figure out how to do that because that's going to be absolutely amazing when I finally get around to it. So we'll see, Dave. One of these days, maybe we'll do a road show. Thank you for that. Okay, Denver, Steve-O, a frequent flyer in all of our channels. Want to dish how Andrew felt about Katie after the interview. She turned on this sexy big time with him. Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's something I will actually talk with Andrew with. I haven't had Andrew on my channel in a long time, but you know what? Since I just did a reaction video to his interview video, doing an interview with him about his reaction to his video would be really meta and would be probably some great content. So maybe we'll do that. That's a really good idea. Thank you, Denver Steve-O. I'll message Andrew right after this. Jen Nelson. Hello, Jen. Hey, love SPTV. Can I get your email address to send you a documentary I came across? Well, sure. You can reach me at growingupinscientology@gmail.com. And as long as it doesn't hit my spam folder, I'll see it. I will see it. Thank you very much, Jen. All right, let's see if I'm catching up. I'm only 20 minutes behind the chat now, so I'm doing pretty darn good. All right, here we go. Denver Steve-O again. Hello, OSA. That's the Office of Special Affairs for anybody new to the chat. Yeah, guys, I mean, that's really the underlying goal of SPTV is to give all of the Sea Org members at the Office of Special Affairs something fun to do at their time. And hopefully these guys will realize they too could leave the Sea Org and be the latest channel on SPTV, dishing all the dirt about the Office of Special Affairs. Look, if you're in OSA and you're a Sea Org member, don't route out, don't sign the NDAs, don't sign the non-disparagement agreements, don't take the check, just blow, contact the Aftermath Foundation. We'll help you blow. We'll get you set up, and then we'll get you started with your own channel on SPTV. And yeah, you have a future in broadcasting. The future is bright, guys. You don't have to keep slaving away for pennies. You don't have to be waiting for, dessert night at the Sea Org cafeteria. Dessert night can be every night. Hey, if you leave the Sea Org, you can go get dessert whenever you want. Pizza whenever you want. Hamburgers whenever you want. It's just an absolute shit show, a debauchery of everything you want to eat. It's incredible. You can be free. Thank you, Steve-O. Okay. It's not Kalila. Keela? It's not Kyla. It's either Kyla or Keela. I'm going with Kyla, although I feel like it's wrong. I might be a true SP as of today, besides being in this group, after I finished all my tweets. Stand got some tweets from me today. Stand, which has officially been rebranded Twats. See Mark's video. I'm going to have to do a standalone. Okay, let me make a note right now on my little to-do list. Do standalone video about Twats. Okay, Mark figured out how Scientology has been using the incorrect acronym for stand, and it really should be Twats. So I'm glad to hear that you got some tweets from them. Maybe tweet them Mark's video about Twats. Tweet them the Twats. How's that? And I hope, but YouTube might demonetize me for having said Twats so many times, but we'll see. Okay, Austin Bros. Hey, Aaron, say DM creates OT 9 and 10 and releases it. Would he say LRH made it, or would he finally come clean? Oh, if Miscavige ever comes out with something that he calls OT 9 and 10, he will 100% say that L. Ron Hubbard created it. He would have to. You have to understand, Scientologists, they do look up to David Miscavige. They respect him. They think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But L. Ron Hubbard was pretty clear that L. Ron Hubbard is the single and only source of Scientology. It doesn't matter how revered Miscavige may be among Scientologists. Nobody thinks so highly of him that they think he is personally allowed to create OT levels. In order for Miscavige to even try to take credit for the OT levels, he would actually have to admit that L. Ron Hubbard was lying about ever having created them to begin with. If Miscavige said that he personally had to finish the OT levels and L. Ron Hubbard hadn't finished the job, there would be a revolt. Now the revolt might be, crushed, and perhaps Miscavige would be left with a core group of people who actually did think it was okay for him to create the OT levels. But Scientology does not allow for that. The current present day version of Scientology does not allow for anybody other than L. Ron Hubbard to create OT levels. So yeah, he would have to say that L. Ron Hubbard did it. Thank you for that. S. Never been a Scientologist, but interested after watching Aftermath. Thanks to you, I didn't buy Rebecca Minkoff eyeglass frames the other day. Fantastic. It's about time the world really came to know that Rebecca Minkoff is a Scientologist. She's a second-generation Scientologist. Her brother Uri and Max are Scientologists. Her dad, David Minkoff and Sue Minkoff, have been dedicated Scientologists for a generation or more now. And yeah, Rebecca Minkoff's father, in fact, Rebecca's mom, brother, and dad all co-own one of these quack medical clinics here in Clearwater that diagnoses Scientologists with Lyme disease instead of getting them, actual qualified medical care and diagnoses and treatment and everything. Rebecca Minkoff's father, David Minkoff, is personally responsible for many deaths of Scientologists due to his medical malpractice. And it's time people really understood that Rebecca Minkoff helps fund and enable the international multi-billion-dollar human trafficking cult known as Scientology. So thank you, S. I appreciate the super chat. Okay, let's see. Kevin, hey, Aaron, how do we know that you, Mike, and Mark aren't Xenu's loyal officers trying to keep us in the theta trap? You are Scientology's Thanos. You do have a passing resemblance. Just be real, Aaron. A passing resemblance to Thanos. Actually, now that you mention it, I'm looking at my face on the screen here. Thanos has a very square jaw and a very square forehead. But other than that, the facial features aren't far off. Who's the actor that plays Thanos? Is that Josh Brolin? Let me pull up a photo of Josh Brolin. Oh boy. Okay, let me get this over here and then I'll share this one. Let's see. I know you're talking about Thanos specifically, but let's for a moment just take a look at Josh Brolin. Can I make that bigger? Nope, it's just going to stay the same size. I don't know, guys. If Josh Brolin had a beard and no hair, would we be lookalikes? I don't know. Oh, wait. Oh, my God. When you actually just pull up the Thanos thing. Oh, see? That's why he looks like me, because he's bald. Oh, my God. Our eyes and our eyebrows are pretty similarly shaped and located. The nose isn't that far off. Holy shit, you guys. I am the Scientology Thanos. That's insane. Wow. Somebody might want to make that into a shoop. I don't really do shoops on my channel. If somebody wants to make like a blend of my face and Thanos's face and send that to Mark, I'm sure he could do something with that. Some shoot with like me as Thanos and maybe like David Miscavige as one of the other characters who like who disappeared when Thanos snapped his fingers or something. That'd be pretty clever. But anyway, let's see here. So Xenu's loyal officers, you would think that Xenu and whatever his loyal officers are up to, that whatever's going on there would have some relevance to like day-to-day Scientology, like current Scientology mythology. You'd think like Xenu is apparently locked up in some electronic prison in the Himalayan mountains or something. Like you'd think Scientologists would be out there trying to find Xenu. You'd think that would be a thing. And yet it's not. But Scientology would be a lot more cool and exciting if it were a thing. L. Ron Hubbard and his Xenu hunters. They have Scientology TV, right? So there's theoretically a demand for some kind of original programming. They could do something about, the Xenu hunters. Maybe that would be an awesome spinoff of Dog the Bounty Hunter. Dog the Bounty Hunter searching for Xenu and his loyal officers. I'd watch that. Thank you for the comment, Kevin. Much appreciated. Okay, let's see. Aro Louise K. It almost seems like they've stopped trying. With Tampa Brad and others plugging the Church of Scientology, they have more money than they can spend. Do you think it's down to what's... Sorry, I keep kind of thirsty. Hold on. So let me think. When you say they've stopped trying, I feel like they've stopped trying to get people into Scientology. They've stopped trying to recruit. I can tell you that at the organizational level, there are no Scientology staff members or Sea Org members who personally feel like they've been given permission to stop trying, if you know what I mean. The recruiters have just as much pressure to recruit as they always have. The people, and I'm talking about like recruiting for staff, the people whose job it is to bring in new people into Scientology, those people have just as much pressure to bring people in as they ever have. It's just that there's less and less staff and there's less and less public. Scientology's on this decline that I really don't think it's possible for them to come back from. But look at all the money they're paying for Scientology TV. Look at all the money they're paying for their direct TV network. Look at how busy they are producing new content, commercials. They're busy buying buildings, trying to. That is one thing they've continued to be very, very, they still put on tons of fundraising events. So it might look like they've stopped trying, but that's just because they keep failing at what they're trying to do. So there's less activity to observe. There's less activity because there's less people. But the people that are left are unfortunately still having to work as hard as ever. And I promise you, Scientology is not asking Tampa Brad to do the stuff that he's doing. Scientology is not asking Katie Lohman to go out there and try to promote Scientology. So I don't think it's gotten down to what's the point. I really don't. I know it seems like it might have, but I don't think so. Thank you for the super chat. JC Cooper. Hey, Aaron, if you come to Germany, stop over in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and I'll take you to the Church of Scientology building there. Let's laugh. Amsterdam is another place I've been dying to go to. You know, I've been to a bunch of places. So I've been to London. I've been to Edinburgh. I've been to Milan, Italy. I've been to Vienna, Austria. As far as Europe goes, I've been to Russia. I've been to China. I've been to Japan. And that's probably it. So, and by the way, all that traveling after I left Scientology. And so, but for the last few years, I haven't really gone anywhere out of the country. I've been to Colombia. I've been to Thailand. But yeah, I'm looking to start traveling again. So, if I go to the Netherlands, I'll let you know. 100%. I'd be looking forward to that. That would be fun. Thank you for that. Okay, let's see. Now I am only, I'm still 20 minutes behind the chat. All right, let me find the next one here. Okay, Douglas Robinson. Douglas Robinson. What if the rest of us stole Scientology, started our own org? All of us will call ourselves Scientologists while having the exact opposite practices as they do. Well, you certainly could do that. Scientologists believe incorrectly that RTC, Religious Technology Center, that's the organization David Miscavige is the head of, they own the trademarks of Scientology. Scientologists incorrectly believe that RTC has established some legal precedent where you're not allowed to practice Scientology outside of Scientology. And the fact of the matter is that is 100% false. There's plenty of organizations outside of Scientology that practice Scientology, call themselves Scientology, and RTC has absolutely no right to sue them or control their activities in any way. So somebody could take the Scientology materials or not and start an organization and call it Scientology and practice whatever the heck they want. And there's not a gosh darn thing Scientology would be able to do about it. So give it a shot. Let me know how it goes. All right, let's see. B Mood. Always good to see you, B. I've interviewed B on my channel before, and we did a bunch of videos together recently, or a couple of them, so you guys can check that out. I went to school with Sonny, Skrillex. Wild that people still don't know he is a Scientologist. His dad is still in. He won't rock the boat while his dad is alive. That's probably really what it comes down to, the familial relationship. So B, I'm curious if you think that once his dad does pass, and I have to assume his dad's not that old. I mean, Sonny's got to be younger than me, right? I'm 42. Let me see. Sonny, Skrillex age. I mean, he looks like he's younger than me. 35. Yeah, there you go. So Sonny's 35. What? So his father's got to be 55, 65. At the very oldest, I'm guessing 70. So, man, you'd think people would wake up. It's such a damn shame. There are so many people who are secretly out of Scientology, at least in their minds, in their hearts, and they pretend to be in because of family members. I get phone calls and emails from them all the time. And if Scientology knew how many of these people there were and just who they were, they would be very, very nervous. I'll tell you what, because these people are also able to spy on Scientology and tell us all the inside scoops. Thank you, B. Douglas Robinson again here. Did you know Scientology is being required in schools now? You have to take it after math. I see what you did there. I didn't know where you were going with that, and I was going to disagree with you there, but good job, Douglas. Good job. Ken's channel. Hey, Ken, always good to see you. If anyone wants to see how much BS and cringe Grant Cardone has, watch Aaron's analysis of Grant's interview on Jordan Belfort's podcast. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'd sort of forgotten about that. Yeah, first of all, even watching the interview that Jordan Belfort did with Grant Cardone will show you what a grifter and a fraud Grant Cardone really is. And then you can watch my analysis of that interview just for some extra entertainment and a little bit of education and infotainment. And that would be a good use of a Friday or a Saturday evening, possibly. Thank you, Ken. Always good to see you. Thank you again. 86 GOP. I love your channel, but what are you going to do with all of your time when Scientology dies? Whatever I mean, sometimes people ask me this, what will you do after this? What will you do after that? Whatever comes. I mean, look, it's not like I've only been doing this channel. I've only been dedicating my time to this channel for, well, since about July or August of last year. It's been like 6, 7, 8 months at the absolute most. Well, guys, I've been out of Scientology for 10 years. So, I started, there's an infinite number of things I could do to occupy my time. One of my most favorite things to occupy my time is absolutely nothing. Have I said how inherently lazy I am truly at heart? My favorite thing to do is nothing. My favorite place to be is laying down in bed. My favorite thing to watch is Netflix and YouTube. I could be eternally gratified just laying in bed watching Netflix and YouTube forever. Anything else I do, it's just icing on the cake. I would, people talk about, once you retire, people talk about like the idea of retirement, the idea of not having something that has to occupy your time as being something like you're slowing down in life. I go, no, that's what I aspire to in life, is to do as little as possible. So, I've got family, I've got friends, I've got a business, I've got tons of other stuff I could be doing. And I like doing recreational stuff, So yeah, anyway, that's a long answer to a simple question. Thank you, 86 GOP. Thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Okay, I am now less than 20 minutes behind the chat, so we're making progress. Marjan, the Dollar Shave Cream. Oh, the Dollar Shave Cream for shaving. The Dollar Shave Club cream for shaving is really good. Well, I'll take your word for it. I've only ever gotten the razors from Dollar Shave Club. I've never done any of their upsell things. I don't like use aftershave or cologne or anything. I've literally never gotten anything from them other than their razors. Because I kind of think like shaving cream is shaving cream, right? You know what I'm saying? But I'll take your word for it. I would love to have Dollar Shave Club as a sponsor. Maybe somebody can. Oh, by the way, a new sponsor contacted me this morning. I probably shouldn't give away who it is until it's all finalized and everything, but that would be my channel's third sponsor. Ridge Wallet, Atlas VPN, and this new one. So that's cool. I could always use more though. Always use more. Why not? Okay, let's see. I'm scrolling, looking for the next one, you guys. I'm scrolling, looking for the next one. Oh, wow. We're actually really close to being caught up here. Paul Schilling. Okay, let's take a look at this. Paul Schilling. Hey, Aaron, what percentage of Scientologists are in it just for business purposes and don't really believe the myth and magic stuff? Okay, thank you for this question, Paul. I'm going to say a shockingly small percentage of members. I actually don't think anybody would join Scientology just for the business purpose. The truth is Scientology organizations really look down on people using Scientology orgs for networking purposes. Now, I think what does happen, what is quite common actually, is that once people have successful businesses and those businesses involve Scientologists either as partners or as key employees or as a majority of the rank and file staff, that you will have people who stay under the radar and don't officially leave Scientology so that their business doesn't get damaged as a result of leaving Scientology. So, but let me take a look at how you're wording this question. What percentage of Scientologists are in it just for business purposes? Well, what I've just described would qualify as an answer, even though I don't think it's what you were referring to. I will say I don't think anybody joins Scientology for business benefit. I really don't think so. I've never heard of someone. I couldn't think of anyone off the top of my head that I think fits that bill. But we have gotten to a point where a lot of people stay in Scientology so that their businesses don't get destroyed. That's probably the best answer that I can give you on that one. Because look, if we want to take another example of like how many actors join Scientology so that they'll it'll give them an advantage in Hollywood. I don't know. Name one. Name one actor who joined Scientology and as a result had a successful career. Tom Cruise isn't one. He was already world famous before he joined Scientology. A lot of these second generation Scientologists don't count as an answer to that because they were raised in Scientology in Hollywood families, and nepotism already works its magic in Hollywood usually. There are so many Scientologists who've been actors for a long time who have not been able to break into the industry. Tate Rupert, Jim Meskimen, Jeff Pomerantz. I'm hard pressed to think of some others. These are guys who, if being in Scientology could help make you a star, would be stars. And yet they've been working in the industry for decades and nobody knows who they are. And so if it doesn't even work in an industry where the number one guy in the industry is a Scientologist, Tom Cruise, then it's not likely to be a huge advantage in the business world where Scientology just isn't really a thing. Thank you for the question, Paul. Okay, Brian S. You named ABC Mouse, Cardone, Grant Cardone, Postcard Mania, Balance of Nature, the Minkoffs, yet resist promoting a naughty list. Remove the umbrella and let the sunshine disinfect. Yeah, so Brian, I get what you're saying. I don't mind calling people out on a case-by-case basis. And and yet there is something about publishing some master list that just rubs me the wrong way. And maybe I'll have to, if I thought about it long enough, I'd either figure out exactly what it is that I don't like about it, or I'd figure it out, or I'd decide that my concerns about it are unfounded. I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it. I just feel like Scientologists already try to say that all we're all really doing is, fomenting hate and persecution against Scientologists. And I don't want to give them ammunition unnecessarily. They're already going to seize upon anything that they can, whether it's, accurate or not. There's just something about publishing some comprehensive list of Scientologist-owned businesses that I feel goes beyond what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to accomplish. But Brian, if you remember, I did say that if somebody wanted to put together a list and send it to me, I might be willing to do something with that list. It's just not something I care enough about to put in the work and make that list myself. And maybe that's really more what it is. It's not something I think is important enough to spend the time on. But if someone did most of the work, I could maybe go through it and discuss it. Do you know what I mean? Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Tess Forbes. Despite purchasing a new $37 million building in Australia in 2016, the number of members continues to decline. The 2021 census recorded 1,655 Scientologists in Australia. Enjoy your channel. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, that's right. So 2016, what was the new thing they purchased? Did they purchase a new advanced org? What did they do? Give me 2 seconds while I Googled this. $37 million Scientology building, Australia. Now, what is this? Oh, yeah. It's the new advanced story, AOSH Hanzo. One of the announcements, I'm just reading something here, guys. One of the announcements that Scientology leader Miscavige made at an October, this was back in 2014, an October event, was that it had plans for a new advanced org in Australia. But did it open? Did they open this thing? So yeah, why in the world Scientology would need a new advanced org in Australia is beyond me, except just goes back to that thing. The purpose of this real estate expansion agenda campaign is to raise more new money, convince Scientologists that Scientology is really expanding, and to create the illusion to the world at large that Scientology is expanding. It really has nothing to do with actually expanding Scientology. And the fact that the census numbers in Australia continue to show fewer and fewer Scientologists, it's just, it just proves that. It shows that. Thank you, Tess. I appreciate it. All right, let's see. Jersey Janet, AA Run. Who was the brave one in your marriage who first said they wanted to leave Scientology and risked getting a KR written by the other one if they didn't agree? Did you both agree right away? So that's not how our path worked. The very short version of this is, so even when I and my wife no longer believed in Scientology, we weren't actually trying to get kicked out. Because remember, no longer believing in it is one thing, but getting kicked out has life ramifications. So we were at a place where I was working for a Scientologist. My wife was working for a Scientologist. All of our friends were Scientologists. Our nanny was a Scientologist. Our kids were going to a Scientology school. My wife's, her two parents and all of her siblings and nieces and nephews were Scientologists. So for us, it was good enough to just sort of no longer believe, no longer be active, and just stay under the radar. We were literally not trying to get kicked out. My mom was the first one to get kicked out because she was, and I'm really dumbing down this story. She was forwarding, talking smack about David Miscavige to other Scientologists. And then they eventually came to me and said, well, you have to disconnect from your mom or you're going to get kicked out. And then for a couple of years, I pretended like I was disconnected from her, but never really did. And my Scientologist friends were spying on me and reporting to the church that I had not disconnected from her. And so they were like, well, this guy's just going to keep lying to us, isn't he? About disconnecting from his mom. And they're like, yeah, he's going to keep lying to us. And I'm like, okay, you're out of here. So then they go to my wife and they say, well, you've got to divorce your husband or you're going to get kicked out. And she's like, yeah, that doesn't really work for me. So then she got kicked out. And then they go to her parents and they say, well, you've got to disconnect from your daughter and your 3 granddaughters or you're going to get kicked out. And so then they were like, well, we can either disconnect from Heather and our 3 granddaughters, and then we'll get to keep our other 3 kids and all of their kids. Or we could say we're not going to disconnect, and then so basically her parents are having to choose which kids are we going to keep and which grandkids are we going to keep. And, this really is just the perfect example of how Scientology really goes out of its way to destroy families, because there was a better way, if, from Scientology's perspective, that they could have handled this so that they kept as many people as possible, lost as few people as possible, didn't create public enemies. Do you know what I mean? So we never had to make a decision to leave. We were actually trying not to get officially kicked out so that Scientologists wouldn't have to disconnect from us, including all the family and business and friends stuff. So that's how that went. Thank you for the question, Jersey Janet. Okay, we got Quo Vadis. The internet will finally bring down Scientology. Too much info, plus shows, plus this great channel. Keep swinging the axe until the Keebler elf tree falls. I love that comment. That would also be a fantastic shoop if somebody wants to make that shoop of David Miscavige as a Keebler elf up in his Keebler tree, and like me, Mike, and Mark chopping down the Keebler tree. And maybe Tom is up there in the Keebler tree with Dave, and maybe Monique Yingling is up there. Maybe Marty Rathman is up in that tree. That is just a fantastic image. Thank you, Quo Vadis. I appreciate it. Thank you for the super chat. Okay, Jumpman. Hey, Aaron, first time catching you live. Greetings from Germany. Awesome. By the way, still waiting for my declaration letter. Really? Well, you're not likely to get it. They don't really send out declares anymore. I was never informed in writing, verbally. I have never been directly contacted and informed by Scientology that I'm declared. They never sent me anything, not a letter, not a declare issue, not a report, not a tweet. But they did apparently show some other people an actual declare issue in writing, but they never let anybody keep it. They never let anybody have a copy. So I've never seen it. I've never seen my declare order. Hey, for all I know, I could be in good standing. Thank you, Jumpman. Ken Grover. I've fallen down the AA Ron rabbit hole. Love it. Thank you, Ken, Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for the super chat. All right, let's see here. I see another one from Denver, Steve-O. Rathbun calls this movement an ASC, the anti-Scientology cult, but that description kind of sucks. What is the proper name for what you, the rest of SPTV, and all the others do? Denver Steve-O, thank you again for another super chat. I don't have a name for it. I mean, I don't feel it requires a name. I've never felt compelled to come up with a name. Just even calling it SPTV was kind of a funny idea that it's just so funny that I'm using it. Anti-Scientology. The real answer is I don't have a name. I don't have a name. I don't know that it requires a name. Perhaps SPTV is good enough. If anybody else has any ideas of a name or why there should even be a name, I'm willing to hear it. You know, thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Let's see. Okay, Jacob Harkey. Are you able to share how you know that Tony and Chris were asked by the prosecution not to share the interview with the Masterson jury foreman? Well, sure, because I'm in touch with people with firsthand knowledge who were involved in the conversations. I'm not going to name names at this point. I mean, that would be irresponsible on my behalf. It's not that they were asked not to share the interview. They were asked not to share the interview before the announcement was made about whether they were officially going to retry Danny Masterson or not. And that, you know, that's a fact, regardless of any opinions about would it really have mattered, would it not have mattered? Who knows? Who cares? That's not really what's at issue or what's at argument. The fact is they were asked by the prosecution side of the equation, is how I've described it. They were asked to hold on to it for a couple weeks and they refused. And then I did a video very charitably saying that maybe Chris just didn't know. Maybe Tony just never told Chris that they were asked not to publish this interview. And maybe Tony was just throwing Chris under the bus. I was being charitable. I didn't know. I was sort of going, let's just be nice and let's pretend that Chris didn't know. Well, it seems pretty obvious that Chris did know based on everything else that I'm hearing behind the scenes, but that's okay. Water under the bridge. They can do what they're doing and we'll do what we're doing. Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate it. Okay. More Bobo. Not watched. Wait, what? More Bobo. Not watched, but better not come from my boy Skrillex. So I think what you're saying is I haven't watched what you've said about Skrillex, but you better not be coming from my boy Skrillex. I mean, I'm not coming for him. He's a Scientologist. Is that is that good or bad? I don't happen to care whether people care that Skrillex is or is not a Scientologist. I do find it a little remarkable and hypocritical when people who are celebrities and are in the public spotlight choose to keep it a secret that they're a Scientologist. Like, it is hypocritical. Any other Scientologist would get in trouble for feeling the need to withhold from the outside world that they're Scientologists. They would be considered PTS. And yet, because someone's a celebrity, because they're famous, they make a lot of money, they bring a lot of money to Scientology, they're allowed to keep it a secret because everybody knows that it really is it would be damaging to your career to be known as a Scientologist. And but honestly, I don't care what people think about it. And I do think it's actually remarkable. I do think it's admirable when people, particularly people who've been raised in Scientology, second generation Scientologists, are able to overcome, like, in a certain extent, people who are raised in Scientology, in my opinion, have the deck stacked against them. That's my opinion. So the fact that Skrillex has been able to become one of the most influential people in his genre of the entertainment industry, I think is admirable. But what would he say if someone asked him about being a Scientologist? Would he deny it or would he talk about it? That would be interesting to see. So thank you, more Bobo. I mean, I hope I understood your super chat correctly. All right, let's see what's next. Oh my God, I'm only 4 minutes behind the chat. What good timing. We're about to hit the 2-hour mark. So we'll wrap this up here. So VW from Indiana. Hello to all SPs. I admire you all. Thank you very much, VW. I appreciate it. So Indiana, I hope you've been marked safe from Chris Farmer. Okay, let me see. Oh my God, how perfect. We literally, that's it. Those are all the super chats. We've hit the 2-hour mark. It couldn't be better. It's 4:30 my time. I'm glad all you guys in the UK and Europe were able to join, and Australia. This has been a lot of fun. Who knows? Maybe there's no reason for me to wait until the evening hours to do these live streams. Maybe it's just as good to do them in the afternoon. I probably won't do them in the morning, but who knows? Maybe early afternoon is the way to go. All right, everybody. Thank you to everyone who stuck in there with me throughout this entire thing, and I will talk to you all very, very soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe